my vision is teachers and students entering school every day with a smile and staying with that smile. Because today it mostly happens on the first day of school and the last day of school. I see children going to school and teachers. My vision is that they would really look forward to going to school every day.
Welcome to SELIN Talks, where we explore the frontiers of education with those shaping its future. I'm Shruti Verma, and today we're diving into the world of creativity in education with Michelle Korenfeld, a pioneer educator, author, and mind behind raising creative thinkers. Michelle's life mission to infuse creativity into public education has transformed classrooms and inspired both teachers and students. Today, she will share her insight on blending art with science to spark innovation and curiosity. Without further ado, welcoming Michelle. Thank you so much for being part of SELIN Talks today. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you. So to start off, Michelle, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. To start off, Michelle, could you share with us your favorite moment or experience from your career that vividly reflects your passion for creativity in education?
Well, I visited the class and gave them all sorts of experiential activities. And when I come to class, the teacher sat with the students. They were sixth graders. And so I asked them, I like working enthusiastically. There is energy into the class, into the lesson. So I asked them, who has lots of ideas in their mind? And everyone raises their hand. And then I ask again, who has lots of ideas in their mind, but doesn't express them? Everyone raised their hands again.
Oh.
Yeah. And the teacher was like, what? Because, teachers, they need to deliver material, learning material, such as subject they have to explain. But my students have ideas. This was amazing. And all through this lesson, she was looking around, and there were students participating that never participate in lessons, because maybe they have already been labeled as not as good students, because they don't memorize well, but they're curious and they have those wonderful creative insights. And when I come to class like that, somehow they feel free and they express interesting ideas and show that they have knowledge about the world, and they can relate it to what I'm talking about. This also happened in middle schools.
Okay.
And the teacher is like, what? The student has such an interesting something to say. And it could be that this is a student that has been labeled as never participating, low grades. And so this is what is most exciting.
That's amazing. That's actually a very interactive part that you've mentioned. It's actually very interesting. So, looking back at your journey, what inspired you to focus so deeply on creativity? How did you actually thought that you want to? How did you think that you want to go towards education arena and education sector? How did it begin?
Well, first of all, it's something innate with me. And this is something I see about creativity teachers and professors that I talked with. That is something that is innate. It's part of a vocation.
Okay.
To raise creative thinkers, to see the students succeed and think and make new products, new regional products, and succeed with themselves. This is transformative leaders. Transformative leadership means that we raise our students as leaders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So this is what I think is needed today, and transformative leadership in the classroom, but also distributive leadership, because if we want the students to be autonomous in their learning, then the teacher would have to distribute his authority a bit, his power, so they are empowered.
So, your approach to education is deeply rooted in creativity. Could you delve into the philosophical and psychological theories that underpin your methods, particularly in your 5E strategies?
So the 5 E's is an adaptation of creative problem solving to education.
Okay,
In creative problem solving, there are 4 stages. We clarify the challenge, the problem, and then we ideate on ideas, and then we develop one idea we have chosen based on criteria. Um, and finally, we implement. It is very important not to forget to implement, because can have the greatest idea and never do anything. So in the classroom, this means to clarify, to explore. That would mean that the teacher introduces today's lesson, and this can even be by a short lecture. It's totally
right,
okay. We need to explain the subject, but it would be better if we do it in a curious way. Maybe even watching an art that expresses the subject, or a poem, or a video, or a story. What
right,
I did through my journey is writing stories through which children learn without even noticing about the environment, about science and nature. And science is a way to glorify nature, to delve
yeah,
into its beauty. And if this is our approach, then we can really make children curious about learning, interested, engaged. So explore, experience, examine, elevate, and express. After the teacher introduces the lesson, we experience with learning. So this could be a science experiment, but it could also be an artistic experiment, a thought experiment, uh,
right,
use of AI, use of digital learning, conversation. This is something I highly stress. Education has what was widespread in education is discussion. Discussion
yeah,
is mostly critical thinking. And in a conversation, we also share emotions and insights. We connect what we are learning to our to world problems, to our personal experiences. And this is meaningful learning. You would not have to even check that the child has learned after that. If the child is related learning to personal experiences, then he has internalized the learning. And the idea
right,
is that in this phase, children begin to draw on their own ideas.
yeah,
Yeah. And then so this is parallel to ideate in creative problem solving. The third stage in creative problem solving is develop.
okay,
So, so in education, the teacher helps the students examine their ideas, choose one that is best relevant and that is best applicable, and helps them elevate it. So students don't like to revise and to rewrite, but to elevate their ideas, that's totally different perception. And finally, the fourth stage in creative problem solving is implement. And I believe that in education, implementation is express. When
yeah,
they express their learning, it could be by writing a composition, an essay, or even a paragraph, even a sentence, if it's for lower elementary school. And also as PowerPoints, or as they can make videos today. It's very simple for them.
Yeah.
It's amazing how Gen Z students can express themselves. If you'd watch a TikTok video, they can take very complex matters and express it with visuals in less than a minute.
Yeah. And beautifully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So how did you come up with these, the 5E approach?
So when I wrote the Raising Creative Thinkers guidebook, these 5 E's kept repeating themselves. I saw that
Okay.
there were themes that repeated all the time. I worked in Man in the Living World Museum, where I introduced science and nature. No, not so much science at that point, but nature and to children. And there were animals. If I would come to students with, I would come with the animal. We would meet
Okay.
the animal. We would relate to it, and I wanted to tell them stories about the animals, and at some point there were animals there were no stories about, so I began to write. And
Oh,
each yeah, and they told me, you only tell stories you write. And for each story like that, I did maybe for a whole month research scientifically. It was a museum, a science museum, so I can't tell something for the children that is not scientifically based.
yeah.
And then I began to paint my um, to tell my stories. Um, I needed aids to show
Okay.
what I'm talking about, and the children liked what I drew. That was after 20 years that I insisted that I can't paint and that I will never be able to paint. Maybe probably someone at some point told me, well, what is this painting? This is not good, which is something that happens to everyone.
Hmm.
We all
Yeah.
have this kind of experience. Someone told us, what is this idea? And that's stifling creativity for life. And so my mother saw, I told her, my mother, that the children like what I'm drawing. And she said, why don't you go study painting so you can draw them coloring pages.
Hmm.
And I simply delved into a wave of creativity. And for 4 years, I was very much all the time painting. And if I'd come to children, first we'd watch the painting of the stories, and we'd think, what is today's story about? And we'd just imagine it before even hearing the story.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my daughters were invited to the Eric Lando Institute for Creativity and Excellence of Youth. And the leader, she told me, you already have literature, you have stories, and you have art. Now add science. So the next family dinner, I sat with my uncle on my mom's veranda. He's Dr. Michel Ishpon. He established the Clore Garden of Science and the Science-Oriented Youth Department in the Weizmann
Wow.
Institute. Yes, and I showed him my paintings, and I told him, what do you see? And it was
Hmm.
amazing because he saw soap bubbles and um, symmetry, and they began to learn the science behind my paintings, and we added science activities into my stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I realized that I have developed resources and that every teacher can use to foster creativity in the classroom. So I gathered it all into a book available on Amazon worldwide, Creative Children Like the Animals of the World. And in the book, there are stories and poems. It is all there to ignite the children's creativity. The children signed their name next to mine on the cover page. They are co-authors.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. And uh, after the painting, there are drawings, and then they are invited to color, but also to draw freely with a prompt. This is 2015. The word prompt was not so much used.
Yeah.
And
Now
there's
we
also,
can't live without it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but these are prompts that cannot be used with ChatGPT. These
Hmm.
are prompts for the child to express the inner world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
if we then see what he drew or write or even scribbled, creativity could be very like scribbling.
Hmm.
Um, that we can learn what the gift of the child is, and what is how we can foster social emotional skills and direct the child toward fulfillment of potential.
I'm sure. I mean, that gives, I think, another boost to the brain. It's not just lesson planning and curriculum that a child needs to go through. It's actually using what they see, or even, getting inspired as to what is being made by other students. I think that also plays a very vital role. That's amazing. So, you have also identified a critical issue of student anxiety due to lack of creative expression. In your view, what systematic changes in education policies or structures that are needed to address this issue efficiently, but also on a global level?
Yes. So basically, this is using the 5 E's. And 5 E's are core principles. Every teacher can use it the way that is right for themselves, for the teacher and for the students. Um, and the OECD's learning compass, it is
Okay,
very interesting. It is not just standards of learning the way things have been for so long. In the OECD's learning compass, there are concepts of well-being and
right.
of children creating value. And this is we can do with the 5 E's. It's a way of problem-based learning and project-based learning. So in Explore, we'd introduce a problem that is world-related. And with this process, the children eventually can come up with ideas and solutions to environmental problems and society, things in society. We can help them care, and we can also model the way they can contribute, because Gen Z students, it seems like they don't care because they're on the smartphone all the time, but
Yeah,
they see there are things that really scare them and they don't talk about it. It
yeah,
seems to them that the world is collapsing
that is
at
true.
some time, at the time they are beginning their life. So with the 5 E's, if we explore all such problems with them, we can direct them. We explore, examine and elevate. They need us to direct us, not only as pillars of stability, because we have more experience in life, but also for how we can contribute
Mm,
to a better world.
that is true. And I really agree with the fact that a lot of us, and even Gen Zs, and I think everybody who has access to smartphone knows that the world is collapsing. And yeah, it's not a great feeling, but I think we can all do our little parts there. Like you said, it can be integrated everywhere. So that's a very interesting insight. Um, with from your perspective, what are the most significant shifts that educators need to make in their mindset or teaching practices to truly embrace the implementation of creativity in their classrooms? Because there are a lot of, like you said, you are integrating creativity with science. There are a lot of other things that, and very handful of people that are doing it. What exactly do we need to shift in their
Mhm.
mindset or teaching mechanisms that they are doing?
So in teaching, it's simply the 5 E's, and the 5 E's are going beyond instruction.
Right,
And introducing learning is exploring. Is something that adds on curiosity. We want, you know, we first need to start a lesson making sure that students are curious and interested about what we're going to study. Make the
right.
connection. Yeah. But personally, it's not a matter of shift. It's a matter of
Okay.
connecting to something we have innate.
Hmm.
Maybe over it there are tons of bricks of authoritarian concepts we have
Yeah,
and standards, but this kind of creative teacher, it's within everyone. We
yeah.
already have it inside.
That is true, actually true. We are also going to add your book link in the description of this video because as much as I've read about the book and what you've told, I think it's going to be a great asset for a teacher to have it like a handbook so that they can, keep going back and centering themselves to creative teaching. Creativity is often called abstract, and but how do you measure the success of the methods that you have created? Are there any specific indicators or the outcomes that you look for to gauge the impact on the students?
Okay, so there are many things here. First of all, creativity is not only intuitive and abstract. This is how
Right.
I got to creativity. With my paintings and art, I connected to my inner child and I connected to children. And when I got to present to be a leader at CIPSI, that's the Creative Problem Solving Institute of the Creative Education Foundation in the University at Buffalo, they wanted a presenter that is a creative person to inspire them. But they told me,
Okay.
you also need deliberate creativity. And I was a bit afraid it would damage my intuitive creativity, but not at all. I still paint. um, but the thing is, creative problem solving is very specific and research based. And the 5 E's adapted to education. So it could be very deliberate, but creative problem solving could be more structured. It's really, you have to
Okay.
go through every stage. But important aspects from that are deferring judgment.
Okay.
If we are coming up with an idea, we're not judging them at the moment. We're just having an ideation session, having
Right.
fun. Very important. And another important idea is that we don't stop at the first idea. Mostly people have an idea and that's it. They work on it. But the more we have ideas together, the better they get. So about assessing, first of all, the best assessment is that children look happy and content with learning and they have a spark in their eyes. This is really my wish, that children and teachers will enjoy. Um, but if we think of assessment, the strategy is formative assessment around participation.
Okay.
We're not so much about the product itself, but about the process of participation and the ideas that the children will learn about themselves. How do they contribute to a group or to their autonomous learning? They need to learn about themselves, and this will really empower them as workers in the 21st century environments. They will know how they contribute best, what they need to avoid, how do they work with people who participate differently. This is the most
Yeah.
important. And in my book, there are tools to help children identify their creative problem solving preference and style so they know how they contribute to a group, and also to help them assess self-reflection of how they participate.
Wow. I think the first thing that you said about the kids having their eyes spark and smile on their faces, I think that was, it is more than enough to kind of see that as an indicator of the successful creative teaching and learning process. And it's very insightful how you have broken these things into different methodologies and ways, like you said in your book, there are things that they can adapt. That's very on point. Like people are not just shooting in blind, they can actually go about and learn that entire thing. That's amazing. Given the rapid pace of the entire global change that is happening, how do you foresee the role of creativity in education evolving the next decade, especially in relationships to technologies and societal shifts?
So this goes back to what I mentioned, the OECD's Learning Compass, that what I'm suggesting is a way to implement it with a vision of graduates that care about the environment and that care about the diversity of people in our world, and that can have the tools to create solutions.
Very simply put.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is very interesting. The OECD's Learning Compass stresses well-being, and this is something today's children are need and they
yeah,
seek, because maybe generations before that were much more focused on earning salaries that are great, but this is not so much Gen Z. They
hmm.
they
Yeah,
really
the
wish
previous,
for
yeah,
well-being, for work they feel is important. So it all goes together.
yeah. I think the previous generation was focused on earning their living, a nice house, good education for
Yeah.
kids, and putting the bread on the table every day. I think that was the innate necessity of the hour. But I think now these days, Gen Zs and even all of us are also, even the generation from past is also moving towards having quality life, quality education, and all of that. So I think that kind of changes the entire perspective of how life should be, plus quality life that we actually go forward. And these kids who are learning through creativity will also obviously grow up to be much more, dynamic adults.
Yes,
Yeah,
and they will have integrity, some sort of a feeling of
yeah,
wholeness within themselves. Um, and I think also teachers will have integrity. I'm not only talking about whole child perspectives of
yeah,
teaching, I'm also talking about whole teacher. I think this way
yeah,
can really help build professionalism for teachers with creativity professionalism
yeah.
relevant to today, and especially that it aligns with the OECD's Learning Compass. So it is wholesome education.
That is true.
And it's very simple to implement. We just need to let go a bit. Policymakers need to understand that we can't do, the message is that we can't do it without it. They wanted
Hmm.
teaching and grades.
Right.
We can't do it with creativity education in the middle. It just has to go through it, so learning is even better.
Hmm. Correct. Like you said, it gives teachers a little bit of freedom to have their own creativity flow during the sessions. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah. You rightly said about the policymakers as well. It has to be a bridge. You can't escape it. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I think policymakers are beginning to understand it, but
Yeah.
somehow it doesn't really happen so fast. And I tell you what, because creativity is something we can set aside. Creativity is even a scary concept because it's so intuitive. It's connected to something that is intuitive and less practical. But if you would stress that this is the way to raise tomorrow's innovators, creativity is the process toward innovation, then they will see that we have to do it today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in every time we call a lesson, don't call it creative lesson. Call it innovative lesson. Call it we're challenging Google, we're challenging ChatGPT, something like that.
Yeah. Very true. I think innovation is obviously it is the buzzword there, but you rightly said it will have impact on the growth of how they become as an adult, and even for the teachers. Rightly said, like it's innovative. Creativity is innovation. So as we come to the end of this conversation, which I love, by the way, could you share with us your vision or your hope for the future of education, particularly in how we nurture creativity in young learners. What do you think the ultimate impact of this focus on creativity will be for the next generation?
Well, my vision is teachers and students entering school every day with a smile and staying with that smile, because today
Yeah.
it mostly happens on the first day of school and the last day of school. Very
Yeah,
sad. I see children going to school and teachers. My vision is that they would really look forward to going to school every day. Since we're going to nurture care and creative problem solving, I see this as a way to impact the world. Creativity simply doesn't go with pessimism and
right.
cynicism that are so widespread. Everything seemed dark, and I think children really, really need it
Yeah,
for a better future, for well-being, but also for personal life that are more fulfilled. Because if the child has been directed into fostering his or her creative potential, then they have an anchor. They know
true.
what their strengths are. They know what they would like to do in life. And I
Very
believe
true.
today that they just have to listen to what the teacher says about all sorts of subject and knowledge. The teacher doesn't really see them, and they feel lost. And I believe a lot of part of it is the aggression and the anxiety that are so widespread. But if the teacher sees them, like in those prompts in my book, prompts that today they can leverage with ChatGPT, and the teacher can direct them. And this is something every teacher has, because we're grown-ups. We have more experience in life than them.
True.
Then they have an anchor toward personal life that are just better. And also professionally, with the 21st skills they have acquired of problem solving, of working collaboratively, communicating better, in conversations.
Yeah, very true. All of that in a nutshell, actually. Yes.
Yeah, but deliberate creativity, like creative problem solving, is something
Yeah,
everyone can get better at.
100%. I think that is what practice will make us perfect in that. Yeah.
And it will ignite this intuitive creativity, this light of life inside us. Creativity goes together with meaning and happiness.
Thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you
very
too.
insightful and very different world of creativity as we look at from your experience. It was really nice having you on SELIN Talks. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you too. And thank you to all the teachers and educators, and maybe even parents and grandparents that are listening. Good luck, and creatively yours. That's me, Michelle Korenfeld.